All right, welcome in everybody here. Another episode of the Hockey Talk Show. Super excited to be with you guys tonight. It is a Tuesday night, June 18th. Whenever you're listening via the podcast, YouTube, or Facebook, we truly do appreciate it. Make sure you're sharing the Hockey Talk Show to all your friends. Our home is hockeytalkshow.com. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, let's go ahead and get those likes and shares in as soon as possible. Always helps us reach the most amount of hockey fans around. And don't forget to support the Hockey Talk Show. You can now do so for 99 cents a month. That is so little and tiny. And you could do it through Apple Pay or a credit card. 99 cents a month. There is a link in our description on Facebook, YouTube, and the podcast. We would appreciate any bit of support that you can do. You can go up to $4.99 or $9.99 a month. And don't forget, it's the only podcast that you can actually watch, see some visuals, talk hockey, interact, get the lowdown from a former employee of the National Hockey League and current broadcaster. We love the show. We put our heart and soul into it. We would appreciate it if you guys can support in any way, shape, or form. All right. Let's get into it, man. Justin Braun traded today. Fallout from Erik Karlsson signing that mega max 8-year deal, $11.5 million. Doug Wilson is wasting no time reshaping this roster because 65 is in the mix now for the next 47 years. So 61 is out for 65. Traded to the Flyers. We'll break it down. Nick Leddy, is he the next defenseman to go? There's an Islander, Montreal Canadian rumor we will address. The NHL salary cap and where that's going and how it's going to affect teams and what they do over the next couple of weeks. Huge story there. NHL awards are Wednesday night. We'll take a look at the Hart Trophy race. Larry Brooks is still a dummy. Jacob Trouba, following up on his trade yesterday to the New York Rangers, will address some of the concerns that he hated Winnipeg. And my 5 teams to watch, the teams that I think will be the absolutely most active in the offseason this year. 5 teams to watch this season, the trade free agency season, right here on tonight's episode of the Hockey Talk Show. Appreciate you guys being here with us on the program. Want to say hey to Def on YouTube, Gregory on Facebook. If you guys are in the chats, let me know where you're watching or listening from, what you want to talk about. We'll try and get to as much as we possibly can here. Another jam-packed show. Another fairly busy day in the National Hockey League. Okay, it wasn't as busy as yesterday, but still, we have a trade. And any day where there's a trade is always a little exciting, always something going on.
We have a trade to announce.
Thank you, Gary Bettman. That's our official trade sounder.
We have a trade to announce.
And it's Justin Braun to the Philadelphia Flyers, who, spoiler alert, will be on my list of teams that will be the most active in the offseason this year. There is no doubt about it. Chuck Fletcher and the hierarchy over there in Philadelphia, they mean business. They want to get back to winning ways here in the National Hockey League. And if you're a Flyers fan, you got to love it. Everybody concentrates on these slow rebuilds, and everybody talks about building to the draft, and that's all well and good. And we all applauded the New York Rangers for taking the steps that they obviously needed to take in the rebuilding era and just kind of reconfiguring themselves. But the Philadelphia Flyers have been in this wasteland of what are they doing? Are they rebuilding? Are they a top contender? It wasn't that long ago that they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. You still have Claude Giroux, as we saw in the deadline this year. 17 made his way out of Philadelphia. So where are they? With the firing of their general manager, Chuck Fletcher comes in now. And he is not going to be as patient. Clearly, he's not going to be as patient. He's going to move things in a little bit of a faster direction. And he's been busy so far this offseason. Acquiring Kevin Hayes in the deal with Winnipeg just to get the rights to speak with him was a bold move. That's an aggressive move by any general manager. And now we see another move here in the wake of Erik Karlsson signing with the San Jose Sharks. Justin Braun now a member of the Philadelphia Flyers. So we'll see 61 in orange and black this season. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Not a bad pickup whatsoever, too, on behalf of Doug Wilson and the San Jose Sharks. They get a 2019 second round draft pick, which is 41 overall, and a third round pick in the 2020 draft. So not too bad for a really good defenseman who is on his last year of a deal. And kind of the way Doug Wilson acquired Erik Karlsson in his last year, gave him some time to acclimate himself to the area. That's what Chuck Fletcher is doing here. I like this trade from both sides because, you get a second and a third. These are quality picks for the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, a lot of their money has gone to Erik Karlsson now. With free agency on the horizon for Justin Braun, you got to really be active and really make your moves well in advance. Like, it's no longer I can just trade him at the deadline kind of thing. You're going to see these year out of free agency moves. If a player's a year away from free agency, you're going to see some more of these trades. I think they're going to be a lot more commonplace in the National Hockey League for sure. So Justin Braun over to the Philadelphia Flyers. And like I said, we are totally seeing what the San Jose Sharks are going to be looking like now that we are in the Erik Karlsson era. And, kudos to Doug Wilson because he's had to make some adjustments on his own. Patrick Marleau moving out. They bring in number 9. Kane is in there now. Where do we go with Jumbo Joe? Where do we go with Little Joe Pavelski? I think Little Joe Pavelski gets I don't think he's going to come back. I think a lot of his money went over to 65. So I think that's it for Jumbo Joe, and for Little Joe, I should say. And I think think Joe Pavelski's got a good 2 to 3 years of hockey left in him. He's a great leader. He's a phenomenal forward, and I think he is going to be the delightful pickup of any National Hockey League team that makes a move on him. But as we look at the San Jose Sharks cap structure, they have $16 million worth of cap space as of right now, but they have a lot of free agents to make moves on. Nyquist, Thornton, Pavelski, Michael Haley won't get a lot of money, but he's still one of the free agents that's coming up for them. Timo Meier should get a nice little raise here. He's had a couple of good years. Kevin LeBlanc has been great in the playoffs for them this season. He is a restricted free agent, so he's got to get some money coming his way. They have Joakim Ryan, who's got to get some money as an RFA. And then down the road, Brendan Dillon is in his last year of his contract. So it looks like maybe the choice came down to Dillon or Braun, and Doug Wilson decided to go with Dillon because it looks like you're not going to be able to pay both of those guys, with Karlsson making $11.5, Brent Burns making $8 million, and the pickle man, Mark-Edward Vlasic, making $7 million. That's $26.5 million on 3 defensemen. So San Jose kind of doing the opposite of what the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing. They're spending their money on defense, whereas the Maple Leafs locked up a hell of a lot of money on offense. And I think the Maple Leafs are even crazier than that, right? Because aren't they like $40 million in 3 players? Now I'm curious. I'm going to move over to capfriendly.com's look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, well, $22 million between Austin Matthews and John Tavares. Nylander's making almost $7, so that's $29 million amongst 3 players. So that's more than San Jose's $26.5 million on their 3 players, and they still have to pay Mitch Marner. And Patrick Marleau is $6.25 million. We expect that to be moved off the books. And I wonder if that, I wonder also on this deal, if this does make it easier for Patrick Marleau to go out west and play for the San Jose Sharks once again. I doubt it. I think he winds up in Arizona, to be honest with you. I think that's a team that could really, really benefit from the leadership. They have the cap space for it. I just don't see with the Los Angeles Kings like buying out Dion Phaneuf and sort of making their maturation over to a different franchise than what they've been looking like the last couple of years. I can't see them taking on Patrick Marleau's $6.25 million. Not that they can for at least one season. It's only one season, but I don't know. I just doubt it. If I'm looking at a list of San Jose, the Kings, and the Arizona Coyotes, I'm putting it as Arizona, the Kings, and San Jose third to land Patrick Marleau's services. I just don't see it, falling out any other way. And, there's also like the possibility. I know he wants to be around and near California, but I have to look at Vegas. Vegas might have some room for him, but I can't really see them giving him a massive amount of time. I could actually see him getting being scratched a whole bunch there. No, Vegas has a zero cap space, so forget Vegas. Edmonton maybe. Mm, Edmonton's got a little space. Could help them get their heads out of their rear ends over there in Edmonton. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see where Mr. Marleau winds up, but it definitely won't be in a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey, that's for sure. I want to talk about this Nick Leddy rumor to the Montreal Canadiens, but just wrapping up, Sharks fans, this is what you're going to see now. This is it. You're going to see an awfully frugal general manager moving forward in Doug Wilson because he's got a lot of money committed to a lot of players over the next bunch of years. Logan Couture is locked in at $8 million for a bunch of years. Kane and his $7 million. Tomas Hertl and his $5.5 million. Melker Karlsson is a UFA after this upcoming season. 2 more years on Sorensen, Goudreau. 1 more year for Lucas Radel. So some of the youth that they got here, they're going to have to start doling out some of that cash over the next couple of years. So their spending is going to have to be considerably wise. Quickly, we'll talk about why Larry Brooks is a big dummy still to this day. He hasn't changed at all. He was talking about a rumor between the San Jose Sharks and the New York Rangers. And he was talking about, now he was speculating, so I will give him a little bit of credit here where, he was like, oh, this is just pure speculation on my part. So credit to him because usually he writes these things like he heard from sources. But he essentially was talking about a trade between the Rangers and the San Jose Sharks that would send Henrik Lundqvist to the San Jose Sharks. Now, I don't think this goes down for a plethora of reasons. One being Hank's $8.5 million salary cap hit. You're paying Martin Jones $5.7 million till the 24 season, so that's not going to happen, right? And the only link that he had to fuel this speculation is Henrik Lundqvist's sister lives in the San Jose area. Like, I appreciate the speculation, but let's just be realistic here. I also think that Marty Jones, although he had not a bad playoff, but not an all-star caliber Martin Jones worthy playoff. Outside of that, there's no they got their goaltender. Martin Jones is your goaltender. He's a good goaltender. There's no reason to move away from him. I mean, I think everybody wants to see a Henrik Lundqvist trade because it's huge news. The people that are just hungry for trade rumors. A year and a half ago, said that the Rangers should have traded him a year and a half ago before they announced the rebuild. I thought they should have traded him. He was at the height of his value. They would have gotten a really great return for him from somebody. But I'm kind of past that now. I think that you're going to see a Rangers team that's actually going to compete this year with the addition of Trouba. If they go out and get Panarin, they're going to be somebody to contend with for sure. And they're going to want some good goaltending to go along with that. Nobody wants to suffer through raising a goaltender through these times when you're starting to add some considerable pieces. I'm not saying the Rangers have to win a cup this year. I'm not even saying they have to make the playoffs, but they got to be in the hunt. And I think they will be. And I think they will be for a long period of time. And as we've seen with the New York Islanders and how they rebounded this year, the Devils and how they rebounded the year before, the Montreal Canadiens this past season, you can have a nice little turnaround in a short amount of time. You don't have to bottom dwell for 6 seasons like you had to back in the day, or 3 or 4 years. You can kind of bottom out in the middle for a little while and your climb could be fairly quickly. So you're going to want to hold on to Henrik Lundqvist. I mean, now that they suffered through this year with him, you know, you might as well keep it. You got to play the hand that you're dealt. So you might as well continue to go on the track that you're on. You know what I'm saying? So that's my little Larry Brooks is a big dummy today speech and scene. What do you think of the trade? Taking a look here on the messengers on the chat screen here, it looks like everybody likes the deal. Justin Braun, by the way, is a phenomenal defenseman. He really is. He is a phenomenal defenseman. This is a really good pickup for the Flyers. Let's talk about that end of it. Chuck Fletcher, super active. And I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be a team to contend with this year, too. And I think that, we have a lot of rumors going around and a lot of teams, talking about, well, this one's going to make moves. And I'm going to give you my 5 teams that I think are going to be super active. But I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be super active. Lest we forget, they got a ton of cap space to work with, too. They got some UFAs and some RFAs to contend with. Kevin Hayes needs a contract. Travis Konechny is an RFA. Here's a guy who's a really, really good player. Travis Konechny doesn't get a lot of attention because of all the other RFAs that are out there. Scott Lawton, Ryan Hartman, I really like. Got a little sandpaper in his game. Patrick Nolan is a year away from RFA, so that's something to be worried about if you're the Philadelphia Flyers and moving forward here. But they moved away from Simmons. They got a little space to work with now. Gostisbehere, Niskanen, Braun. This is a really good defensive core for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they're not spending a ton of money on them. Niskanen is the highest paid player on the Philadelphia Flyers defense right now, and he's making less than $6 million. Shane Gostisbehere has got a $4.5 million contract to the end of the 2023 season. Justin Braun at under 4. He'll get a raise if he stays with the Flyers, but it'll be manageable. David Schlemko makes 2.1. Robert Hagg, I like. Hasn't really made it, gotten to the level that people thought he was. He hasn't really, seen his full potential. But he's at 1.1. And then Ivan Provorov, who's obviously going to be the future of this franchise as far as the D-core goes with Shane Gostisbehere. And, he's an RFA, so he's going to have to get some money in the offseason too. So we'll see where he lands. But you got a really great defensive core with the Philadelphia Flyers, and it's really manageable cap-wise. Really, really manageable. And, of course, you got Carter Hart, who's going to be your guy moving forward. And this season and next, he's making less than $1 million. So, you got to make a goaltending decision between Northrup, Talbot, and Brian Elliott, who you have, and they're all restricted free agents. I mean, they're all unrestricted free agents. But Carter Hart's obviously going to be your guy. You got to figure out who's going to be your 1A in case Hart stumbles or in case he doesn't, and you still want to give another player 35 to 40 games. So Philly is in a great spot right now. Yeah, they got to figure out their offense, but Van Riemsdyk is in there at $7 million. Sean Couturier, Jakub Voracek, Claude Giroux. That's a great top 6. Who comes in and fills in the wings on those lines? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, you could play Van Riemsdyk, Voracek, and Giroux all together, but to me, I would take those 4 guys, put them on your top 2 lines, and then get other people to come in and fill the void. And then you got Patrick Nolan, who hopefully, can reach his potential where he's supposed to be. All right, let's get into some of the comments coming in here. Def Malden loves the trade. Winnipeg Jets are going to be very active on the trade market. They're one of my teams that are going to be super, super active. Rob's in here. What's up, man? I know I'm catching up. I'm a little late on these. Let's see here. Thumbs up all around. Don't forget, you guys can support the Hockey Talk Show. Links in the descriptions on Facebook, YouTube, and our podcast for as low as 99 cents a month. So you can keep hearing these great trade rumors and keep talking about what your team is going to do and how things are going to shape up here. Rob brings up a good question. What do you think of Rick Nash's new role in Columbus? I actually like it. John Davidson's out. It all falls on, what's his name? General manager. Obviously, I feel like the team is in good hands. JD really kind of set them up to be at a good level of success. They're obviously losing some huge pieces. But Duchesne might stay, and Jarmo Kekalainen, I think, is gonna. I think he kind of moved into JD's role a little bit, whether he got the title of president or not. He's still the GM, but he's going to be taking on some more of JD's responsibilities. But it's cool to have Rick Nash in there, you know, doing some things. He's kind of like, that's his team that he was drafted with. I think he loved being a Ranger, but I think he really liked being a Columbus Blue Jacket as well. It never hurts to have a good hockey guy. By the way, Rick Nash is a phenomenal hockey guy and a really, really good person, too. It never hurts to have those guys in your organization. So I actually like that. That's a great comment, Rob. I didn't have that on my docket of things to talk about, but I did see that addition for Columbus, and I like it a lot. I like it in a big way. I think Rick Nash will help. He feels like a Blue Jacket to me. So good for him. I hope we trade Marner. We're gonna get a lot back. Says Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs cupsless since 1967. We've been talking about Marner. We're going to continue to talk about Marner. It's going to be a huge story. He's the go-to guy. Patrick Laine is out there in RFA status, and still Mitch Marner is the go-to guy. Trading Marner is super interesting because, as we talked about, if he signs somewhere else and the Leafs don't or can't match or whatever, you're talking about 4 first-round draft picks going in the other direction. That's the compensation for signing an RFA north of, I think it was like $10.5 million, which Mitch Marner will probably wind up getting if he does go out and, solicit offers from other teams. He might sign for less if he decides to stay with Toronto. We don't really know what Mitch Marner is going to do. I will say that, it's interesting because Marner's family's been involved in a major way. If you're up in Toronto, there's always huge rumors going around in Toronto. And, his dad has been very vocal about the Maple Leafs. And I think his dad has always felt like Marner's, been lower on the totem pole than where he really deserves to be. And I think that's interesting. And when they were talking about naming a captain, Marner's dad was in the press talking about, well, what about my son? My son could be captain. Why is it between Austin Matthews and John Tavares? My son could be. Are we having a little bit of rough audio? My apologies. Let me see if I can fix that for you guys. Sorry about that. Is that better? Is that better audio wise for you guys? We've been having some audio issues yesterday and today, but it sounds okay on my end. Let me know if that's better. Let me know if that's kind of settled itself out. Apologize for that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we were, booming there. But anyway, yeah. So Mitch Marner's dad has been, all in the news talking about my son needs, kind of. I'll put some words in his mouth. How he needs, he wants Mitch to get a little bit more respect, and he's not wrong. You know what I mean? He's not wrong. But it's a tough situation. Kyle Dubas has really put himself in a tough situation there, and I don't know if he has to. I don't know if he. I don't know what to do. But trading Mitch Marner, it's an interesting thing because, if you're Kyle Dubas and you're thinking about, all right, if you're Kyle Dubas, you're thinking about, well, maybe I'll just trade Mitch Marner. Negotiations aren't going well. I can't re-sign him. Maybe I'll just trade him. You have to be thinking, as a general manager, you got to get maximum value back for Mitch Marner. And you already have a price set. There's already a market for that because if he just goes and signs somewhere else, it's 4 first-round draft picks. So why would you trade him for anything less than that? When you could be like, fine, if you don't want to sign here, Mitch, go out and get your deal somewhere else. We'll just take the 4 first-round draft picks. Why would you take anything less? I mean, I could see you taking 2 first-rounders and a couple of huge prospects that you really like. But again, that's a big price to pay for Mitch Marner, a really big price to pay. It's got to be worth it. it's really, really got to be worth it. So the Mitch Marner thing is the most fascinating thing ever. And Winnipeg's story is kind of interesting too, because they're in a situation where it's not as drastic as Mitch Marner, but Patrick Laine is a damn good player. And not only do they have to make a decision on Patrick Laine, but they got to make a decision on Kyle Connor too. Andrew Copp's an RFA. He's not as valuable as the two guys I just mentioned, but Winnipeg has a little bit less severe as Mitch Marner's scenario, but they got two of them to deal with. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what's in Winnipeg, too. The idea of trading Marner is not crazy because you can control what you get, but, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really intrigued. I wonder if we're going to get to a scenario where, like, this is what's got to concern you if you're Mitch Marner's camp. What team can pay the price of 4 first-round draft picks if they're going to sign him away from Toronto? You know, if you're going to add a 90-point player to your roster, is that really worth 4 first-round draft picks to you? Marner's a phenomenal player. I love him. I would take him on my team in a second. Game changer for your franchise. But 4 first-round draft picks is a high price to pay. A high price to pay. And if you're going to go lower to the 3 first-round picks and whatever the next level was, you know, Toronto could just turn around and match it and then trade William Nylander. I have a feeling, and I haven't really predicted anything here, but my prediction is this Mitch Marner thing might drag itself out for a little while here, and it might hold up the rest of the restricted free agent and free agent market. Because you better believe teams are waiting to see what happens with number 16. Is he 16? Or 24? I can't remember now. I think he's 16. A lot of teams are waiting to see what happens to him. A lot of teams before making their moves. John on the Facebook, how about my Rangers deal? Love the Rangers deal. We'll get to Nick Leddy and the Montreal Canadiens in a second. I love the Ranger deal. That kind of broke while we were on the show yesterday, doing the show. So that was kind of fun to talk about live.
We have a trade to announce.
I love Gary Bettman announcing that we have a trade of the draft. That's like my favorite clip ever. I like Trouba. I like him a lot. Got to get him signed. I think that he had the same point total as Erik Karlsson did, so I know that Trouba's representation is going to be like, hey guys, same point total, $11.5 million. So I think he's going to go for more. He's definitely going to be asking for more than the 7.5 that people are saying that he's going to get. So it'll be interesting to see what Jeff Gordon can pull off here as far as signing him. But I think the Rangers will sign him. I think he wants to stay. There was a great article in the Winnipeg Sun from Ken Wiebe, who spoke to Jacob Trouba after he was traded, and we learned a couple interesting things. And this goes back to what I was saying on the last episode of the Hockey Talk Show, which is that these guys are human beings and they're people, and a lot of stuff goes into where they decide to play. And we talked about this with John Tavares when he left to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, a lot of people thought Jacob Trouba wanted out from Winnipeg, but Jacob Trouba is he married or does he have a fiance? I can't remember. But his partner, you know, she's a doctor. You know, she's going to be his fiance. She's going for her residency. And as he explained in this article, you know, he was talking about, hey, you know, my career is important, but her career is important too. It's important to both of us. So I have to decide, you know, where we're going to be in the future. And, you know, if she's trying to be a doctor, I don't know if you've heard, but New York's got like a lot of good hospitals. Hotbed for doctor activity here in New York City. I've been to hospitals in New York City. They're lovely. It requires good doctors having 9 million people in a tiny, tiny space. So I think for those reasons, he'll resign here. I wouldn't be surprised if he dips his toe in the water past the June 26th deadline where, you know, other guys can talk to other teams. Not to say that there's not great doctor opportunities in Winnipeg, but, you know, it's not the same as New York City or Los Angeles or whatever big city, you know, attracts huge, you know, talent when it comes to the doctor field. But People are like, oh, he hates our team, or he hates this, or he hates that, or he was going to screw us in the beginning, or this and that. They have husband wives, and some of them have husbands and wives, and kids and moms and dads and cousins, and there's scenarios that play itself out that matter to these guys. They matter to these guys in a big way. And so that goes into a lot of these decisions. So, yes, John, love the deal for the Rangers. Pionko's the other way. He's an RFA. Winnipeg will be able to sign him and make it more affordable than what Jacob Trouba's worth. And they pick up a first-round draft pick. The Rangers care not about that 20th overall pick because, like I said, after 6 in this upcoming draft, 6 or 7, there's a big drop-off, and you're developing anyway. And you're adding Capo, Capo. You're adding that guy, and he's going to be great for your team, and that's going to be the huge piece. So all good. Great move from Jeff Gorton. John Davidson, obviously, his stewardship is working out good for the New York Rangers, and is going to continue to be great from here on out. Eddie, Rob, Angry Lawson, hey everybody who's been in here. Sorry if I haven't gotten to your questions. Now there's just so many, so I'm going to be missing a bunch of them. If you want, throw them back down on the chat here, and we'll get to them as we go along. Let's back up Nicoletti to Montreal for one more second and talk about the salary cap, because this is a really, really important thing. Darren Dreger reported today that the NHL and NHLPA were meeting this afternoon. Among the topics is next year's cap projection. Some believe the cap will be around $82 million. A lower cap means lower escrow. Obviously, teams with cap issues were hoping it would be closer to $83 million. It should be finalized this week, to which Bob McKenzie added, on top of this, multiple teams that he's spoken to are very concerned about this cap forecast. Many fear that when the NHL and NHLPA settle on an upper limit this week, it will be less than $82 million for next season, or an increase of only slightly more than $2 million. So as you look at the top of the cap spends here in the National Hockey League right now, there are a lot of teams that are obviously going to be looking at this number and looking at it very closely. $2 million you're going up is nice, but some of them really, really need some of the relief. The Golden Knights have 0 cap space. The Penguins have $6 million. So do the Tampa Bay Lightning, Preds, Coyotes, $7 million. And you're like, oh, not bad. Well, yeah, but a lot of these guys have to get some other players under contracts. A lot of these teams have to sign some free agents here, and make some decisions on some of these players. So, the Pittsburgh Penguins, for instance, they have 6 players under contract to play defense for them this year. So obviously they're going to need to sign some more players. So your $6 million is going to, get dried up really, really quickly. Are we all distorted again? I'm not sure what's going on with the sound, guys. I do apologize. I really, really do apologize. Now it seems like it's super low again, right? Is it low or distorted? I really, really do apologize about the sound issues tonight. We've been working on some of these things and looking at some new equipment. Is it better now? It's a little crunchy and distorted. I also think it might be. How's the sound on Facebook? How's our sound on Facebook tonight? Are we okay, or are we still getting the same distortion issues? Because it might be YouTube. I'm wondering if it's outside of our studio altogether. It's better now. See, I'm barely. I mean, I just sounds low on Facebook. I think it might be YouTube, to be honest with you. I mean, we made some adjustments here, just playing with the knobs a little bit, but overall, I didn't really do anything. So it kind of makes me think that it might be YouTube. All right, apology for the sound issues all around. Just gonna make some adjustments here. All right, hopefully this is better for you guys. Let me know if it's too low, or it looks like we're too low on Facebook and we're distorting on YouTube. So we'll have to figure it out. Sounds great now. Okay. The chat is a little delayed. But anyway, that's the salary cap issues. we'll see where the thing falls here. But I know a lot of teams are going to be looking at this because it's going to be the difference, in that defenseman that they want, or that forward that they need to get. Even with a $4 million player, maybe they were looking to just kind of sneak him in at this point. And if the thing doesn't go up as much as they want it to go up, or goes less than the $82 million where people think it's going to feel, when they're hoping for 83, and now we're talking about, well, maybe it's going to be less than 82. Could be a lot of issues for these teams this season. See, guys, volume issues is why you need to contribute to the Hockey Talk Show. 99 cents a month. Got to buy some new equipment here in the old studio. Let's talk about Nick Leddy. I thought this was a really interesting trade rumor. A lot of these writers nowadays are speculating super hardcore, but when they hit on something that is sounds intriguing and could probably happen, I want to make sure that we get to it and that we talk about it. And that's what we got here today. Let's see. Nick Leddy. Yvonne Pedno from the Montreal Journal observed that there is some speculation linking the Montreal Canadiens to the New York Islanders defenseman Nick Leddy. The 28-year-old has 3 years remaining on his contract with an annual cap hit of $5.5 million. Pretty affordable. Not too bad. He doesn't have no trade protection. He's fallen out of the Islanders' top 2 defensive pairings. And he is speculating that the Islanders could be shopping Nick Leddy. He also suggests it could cost the Canadiens Andrew Shaw and a second-round draft pick. I found it interesting that he named Andrew Shaw specifically and a second-round draft pick. A couple of reasons why I think this could happen. Yeah, it's true. Nick Leddy has fallen off a little bit. I think he's still one of the best puck-moving defensemen. If you ask me, I would prefer Nick Leddy at 5.5 than Erik Karlsson at 11.5. He's not going to score you as many points as Erik Karlsson, but he's also not going to come back and bite you in the rear end if he has an off season, because you're like, whatever, it's $5.5 million. It's pretty average salary for a defenseman. Lou Lamoriello is going to shape this team how he sees fit. Nick Leddy is not his guy. That was Garth Snow's guy. Obviously, there's an infusion of youth coming into the New York Islanders. Devon Toews made the team this year. Pelican Pulak the last couple of years, and this year they took a big step. And you have Noah Dobson coming in this upcoming season, most likely going to make the team unless something drastic happens. So you have a really good infusion of youth in the Islanders' core, which might make him expendable. I wouldn't want to trade Nick Leddy. I would love to keep Nick Leddy, even on a third defensive pair. I think he falls in the middle 4, the middle 2 pairing. He's a top 4 guy. I still kind of like him there to move the puck around, be great in the offensive zone, be good on the power play. When the Islanders were struggling and nobody was shooting, Leddy was kind of getting the shots across a little bit more. Not as much as, Johnny Boychuk, but he was doing it. But he would be a huge help for the Montreal Canadiens. I think a huge help. Montreal Canadiens need some of that speed on the back end. Shea Weber's not that fast. They got a little, they got their issues on the back end. The Montreal Canadiens do, but anybody who can add a Nick Leddy, that's a good hockey trade. That's a good addition to your franchise. So if the Islanders do have an embarrassment of riches on the back end, and they do decide to move a Nick Leddy, anybody who goes out and gets him, it's a good move. Alzner. See, now, I thought Alzner was bought out. That was reported earlier, but it still looks like he's listed on Cap Friendly with the Montreal Canadiens. But anyway, if he's there or not, they have Victor Mete coming up now for the Canadiens. Shea Weber signed for a bunch of years. Jeff Petrie, Brett Kulak. Nick Leddy would slot in there really nice and really, really help their forwards get the puck up the ice faster. But what do you get back in return? Second round draft pick at the very least. At the very, very least. I do like an Andrew Shaw addition. He can score, got a little sandpaper. But you kind of have that already with that fourth line of Cizikas, Matt Martin, and Cal Clutterbuck. Cal Clutterbuck, obviously the more talented scorer in that equation. you wouldn't really notice by looking at this past year with Cizikas having the breakout offensive year that he had. So I don't know if Andrew Shaw makes sense. I do love that this reporter kind of cited him as the person coming back the other way, but I don't know if I would necessarily take that deal. I would probably want to get somebody a little bit more who can help me. And if you're looking at the New York Islanders roster right now, especially if they're going to lose Anders Lee and if they fall short in the free agent market, they need top six scoring. The Islanders need top six scoring. And they're going to need a guy who's going to fit into this locker room, which is obviously super, super tight knit. And I don't really know if the Montreal Canadiens have the pieces to give the Islanders the top six scoring that they need. They really don't appear to be. Thomas Tatar doesn't intrigue me whatsoever. Brendan Gallagher's had his issues in the past. The Canadiens are not trading Max Domi. They're not trading Kotkaniemi. They're not trading Jonathan Drouin. So I like the talk. But if I'm Lou Lamoriello and I'm dangling Nick Leddy and I have Joshua Ho-Sang, who's also a possibility, I better be getting back a really, really good forward in return. I wouldn't be surprised if, they swap for one of these RFAs that are available. I could see Leddy going the other way for one of the RFAs. I'm not even going to name one because I don't want to drive people crazy. But that I could see going back the other way. But again, if you're Lou Lamoriello, I have no problem trading for an RFA, but I got to be able to talk to him before we can make that deal work because I need to know he's going to sign. Not giving up Nick Leddy whatsoever to come up shorthanded in a free agency situation. Let's see here. Why doesn't the NHL just implement a soft cap? Teams over the cap should pay a tax. Because I think that you would have what essentially the New York Yankees do, which is like they could care less about what do they have in baseball? They don't have a salary cap. They have a luxury tax. And the Yankees just they blow right past that and just pay. And that's what's going to wind up happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers. And it's fair, but it's not. I like the hard cap system. I think if you do go over the cap, though, you suffer a penalty. You can go over. You're just going to suffer a penalty. What that is, actually, I don't know. Let's see here. In a soft cap, it would be really hard for teams like St. Louis or Winnipeg to compete with Toronto. Yeah, see? There you go, AK. Just saying what I exactly just said. As an Islander fan, I'm a broken record here. Isles need to get Panarin even if you overpay. I again disagree because I don't know. Again, locker room chemistry is going to be a big, big part of the Islanders offseason for me, personally. That's going to be a huge part of the Islanders offseason for me, is that locker room chemistry. I don't want to bring in, we just shed ourselves of John Tavares. I don't want to bring in another huge player that's going to garner all that attention and need all that stuff and then not wind up producing. I like Panarin as a skilled player. I don't know if he's what the Islanders need. They got to be really, really smart about this and who they decide to bring in. And I think that Lou will definitely do that for sure. But Leddy to Montreal is interesting to me. And I think Leddy could become a great trade piece for the Islanders if they're getting back in return what they need, which is top six scoring all the way. 5 teams. The Hart Trophy. Let's talk about this. Hart Trophy NHL Awards Wednesday night. Sidney Crosby, Nikita Kucherov, and good old 97, who is going to win plenty of Hart Trophies for the Edmonton Oilers in years to come. I think this is Nikita Kucherov's year. He just had an epic year. It was terrible what happened to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs. But as I look at my Hart Trophy, I mean, Nikita Kucherov, look at what this team did in the regular season. It was insane. Insane. I think that Connor McDavid is going to win a bunch of Hart Trophies, and I think I'd like to see Sidney Crosby win one more before he goes, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon. We got a bunch more years of 87 in Pittsburgh, so I think we're just fine there. But my Hart Trophy prediction, 86 over 87. Speaking of Tampa Bay, they locked up Braden Coburn for 2 years. He'll average out $1.7 million a year. So congratulations to him. Let's see here. We talked about a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of stuff on the Hockey Talk Show. I apologize for the sound issues. Any last questions? Let's get them in now as we wrap things up here. Letty to Montreal, we discussed. Joe Haggerty is reporting that Bruins general manager Don Sweeney didn't outright reject the notion of trading Torrey Krug this summer, but he did indicate that he would have to receive a mind-blowing offer to consider it. I concur with that. Krug's had his best year so far. He's been up and down. And again, like I said earlier in this episode, he's a year away from free agency. So a lot of teams are going to make these decisions now as opposed to later on, because you're going to get into a scenario where you're going to get beat on price when it comes to the trade deadline. Let's just take Torrey Krug as an example here. If he lays an egg this year and is terrible and the Bruins fall out of it, which I doubt either of these things will happen, but let's just play for fun. You know, you have a free agent. It's not going well. He's pending. You're going into the end. He's not as valuable to you just playing the final 2 months of the season with a team and then a playoff run as he is right now. You can get him on a team. Teams are going to pay more for that player right now. You're going to get beat up on price come the trade deadline. So if there is going to be a move from Torrey Krug, I do think it'll be this offseason. Hard to justify that, though, when he helped you get to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I think Krug stays in Boston. And I think, Don Sweeney has done a really good job at negotiating good deals, getting huge players and not paying them or overpaying them. And they have a great locker room vibe there. So I think Krug stays. I hope he has a good year. I hope he levels off and stays at the potential that we all think he is destined to be at. Mike McIntyre believes more changes are coming for the Winnipeg Jets following the trade of defenseman Jacob Trouba to the New York Rangers. Jets GM Kevin Cheveldayoff faces a potential salary cap crunch with Patrick Laine, Kyle Connor, and Andrew Kopp still to re-sign. McIntyre notes there are plenty of trade rumors swirling around left wing Nikolai Ehlers. If Ehlers is moved, McIntyre suspects it will be more of a hockey trade to address specific roster needs for a center or a defenseman. 5 teams to watch for me this offseason. Winnie, Philly, Toronto, and my 5th place is a cop-out here, a little bit of a tie between Columbus and Vancouver. Those, to me, are going to be the most active teams. But the Philadelphia Flyers, grabbing Kevin Hayes, buying out Andrew McDonald, now they get in Justin Braun. They're going to be the ones that are going to be driving a lot of trains here. We all talk about, here's a great question from AK, Panarin or Bobrovsky to Florida. John wants Panarin to go to the Islanders. What's stopping the Philadelphia Flyers from throwing some money at Artemi Panarin? What's stopping them? Nobody's talking about it, but I'm looking at my Philadelphia Flyer roster, and I got $30 million in cap space. And if Artemi Panarin wants 9 of that, I can make that work. I love Wayne Simmons, but Panarin on this team, with the scoring power that's already there with Voracek, Giroux, and Van Riemsdyk, you got a real offensively skilled team to worry about now. Not a lot of sandpaper with Artemi Panarin, but do you really need it? Do you really need it? You got enough rough guys on that team that'll handle their business. Panarin to the Flyers makes a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. And I don't know why they're not going to, be checking that out. Now, the rumor was Panarin wanted to go to a big city because his wife, girlfriend, fiance, not really sure, wants to do the actress/modeling thing. Ain't nothing wrong with Philly for that. By the way, Philly, hour and 15 to New York City. Not a big deal whatsoever. You can do all that kind of stuff. Plenty of Philadelphia Flyers, have spots in New York City. So that's not a big deal whatsoever. Panarin to Philly makes a lot of sense to me. A whole hell of a lot of sense. makes that team super dangerous. And it also makes the Toronto Maple Leafs look really bad because they'll have a lot of great scorers for a lot less money than what the Toronto Maple Leafs are paying their top 4 scorers. So my 5 teams to look out for: Minnie, Winnie, Philly, Toronto, Columbus/Vancouver. I think Bobrovsky to Florida just makes a lot of sense. I think you've got to overpay Bobrovsky because the Florida Panthers with Coach Q down there now, Bobrovsky makes them a legit playoff team and a chance to really do some damage in the playoffs. I've been thinking the Flyers might go after Panarin, says Honest Bob, but I don't think he will sign there. As a Flyer fan, I hope he comes here, but I honestly think the Rangers or the Panthers get him. Well, let's take a look at it. You know, I can't argue with the Panthers thing, especially if he follows Bobrovsky, his pal. Panthers are legit lethal. They're one piece away, Bobrovsky, from being a really good team. Bobrovsky and Panarin, they're out of sight good. So I can't argue with that. But if I'm Panarin, I'm going to suffer through at least a year or two of the Rangers being competitive. At least. Now, maybe he wants to be built around, again, wife, girlfriend, whatever, actress and model stuff. Okay, not going to argue with that. The Rangers, obviously, and they got the cap space. It's a great situation. Great situation. But the Philadelphia Flyer thing is intriguing, too. I mean, really intriguing. You know? And they might be able to pay him a little bit more than what the Rangers are willing to pay him. They have the money. Claude Giroux is signed to 22. Voracek to 24. Van Riemsdyk to 23. Couturier to 22. Like, you know where this team is for the next 3 years. Especially if you get creative with the contract. Could be a lot of good money up front for Artemi Panarin. A lot of good money up front. All right, that's it for us for tonight. Apologize for the sound issues. Again, contribute to the Hockey Talk Show if you can. We have a new subscription service where you can support us for as low as 99 cents a month. $4.99 in the middle row, $9.99 if you're a Super Hockey Talk Show fan. We will be back really soon for some more trade rumors, UFA rumors, RFA rumors. What's Winnipeg going to do? Where does Mitch Marner wind up? Do the Islanders make some moves now that Lou Lamoriello has had 1 year under his belt? Where are the Philadelphia Flyers going to spend that $30 million? What's Columbus going to do with all their guys and their mass exodus? Still a lot of great Hockey Talk Show topics to come. Make sure you guys are subscribed on Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you're rating us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And make sure you guys hop on that subscription for at least 99 cents a month. I really would appreciate that. Have a great night, everybody. I will see you on the next shift.